Hey guys, I want to kind of talk about some plane bending stuff and how I apply it to toroids and spheres and other random shit. So, basically, the way I think about plane bending is like here's your reel, right? And you have an infinite number of choices along this where your poi head will be at some point during the orbit. So, that's one variable about our bends. Okay? The next variable will be degree of bend. So we have our reel. Let's say we choose this point to make our bend at. The next variable is the degree of bend. So a slight one like this would look like a figure eight, like a two beat maybe. Your hand, one reel. We choose a point directly in front of us to bend, and we only bend slightly. So then we end up with this two beat kind of thing. Well, we can see that that's a figure eight if we loop it. Okay, so we can actually exaggerate that degree of bend as much as we want, all the way out to almost 180 degrees. When you get to 180 degrees, the technique kind of changes. I'll go over that in a minute. But then you go past 180 degrees, and you can kind of get a shape like this. So it's still a bend, but now your cross point of your figure eight is facing in towards you. And so all those examples are based off of this point as the point you initiate the bend in. But really, you can have that anywhere on the circle, on both sides too. And so an example would be like here, we could bend 90 degrees directly in front to get a wall plane switch like this. And then from here, let's say we want to bend on the top, okay? And boonk, now we're horizontal. Or we could bend kind of over there, but we'll only bend 45 degrees. Boonk. See, so we don't have to do 90. We don't have to do 45 every time. We could do from here and really bend an exaggerated one, And you could take any of those and loop it to get like a figure eight feeling thing. That's like a 90-degree figure eight. It would also look like this from the front, So that is just a bend. Another cool thing about the bends that you can think of is each reel only exists they don't ever exist like this, right? So you have one, you initiate your bend, and it goes to here. So this is your new reel. At any point on this reel, you can initiate a new bend to a new plane, right? And so let's look at how we can apply that to toroids, okay? So let's say we're here with our buzzsaw or whatever, and then we bend, boonk, to 190-degree bend. Once we get back to the same spot, we bend again, boonk, and now we're here. Same spot, right towards the center, we bend again, and now we're here. And so that's kind of like how an iso bend works, right? For a torus, you're implying that toroid shape, bending around the center point to get your cardinal points or whatever. So if we consider what a bend is, an anti-bend, let's look at it this way. We have our center spot, right? Let's do a high one. And then instead of bending at 90 degrees to imply this horizontal, reel, what we do is we'll bend at 45 degrees and then at 45 degrees again, right? And so that puts us here, but it's taken two bends to do it. 45, 45, 90, 90-degree change. Then we can do that again, to tink. Then we can do that again, to tink. And then we just repeat that pattern to get anti-bends, right? A pro bend is similar, but it's three bends. It goes from here to this wall, and then to here. So it'd be here, 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 here. And so that's a pro bend. And the idea that you're implying that torus, see, for it to be like really toroidal, you'd want it to be like maybe like that, like a diagonal buzzsaw cutting across the torus. Because when you're like this, it's kind of fudging it a little bit. You see, bink, bink. But that's just details. So then we can look at the Arashi style stuff now, like and I think of that as sphering, because remember Nick Woosley's like a planes control idea of taking it and sphering it like this and implying a sphere by changing the orbit of your poi around your hand. So that's kind of what Arashi's doing, is he's taking a bend, and let's say you're starting here, you're always going to bend on the opposite side of the circle, right? So it's there, 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 and you can see how that kind of implies a sphere, because you have circles all kind of stacked up, you know. And it's not a perfect sphere if you do a triangle. It will fit generally in, but really there is movement of your hand and stuff. So what you're doing is implying a sphere and implying a torus. You can't actually make one, you know. It's not going to stay. The poi is only one point in space at a time. So the idea is to imply these shapes so that it's recognizable to the audience. And so with this shit, you know, let's look at threes. A three, let's say we're here, one, shit, here, bend, and then we're there, right? And now, to continue that triangle, I would just bend up here, and you can see I'm in reverse because an odd number generally changes direction when you're doing these bend things, right? And then so we're back here. But if you look, instead of completing the triangle, let's just say instead of folding here, because like remember at any point on this bend, I mean this reel, we can fold it. Let's say we fold there. And then instead of going back and creating this, you know, this three here, we'll continue to imply the torus, you know, with our anti-bends. And so you can kind of almost think about that as fitting the triangles together of the three together to make a torus. You know, I don't really know how that works, because like a perfect three would be 60 degrees every time, you know, but with this one we're doing 45, 45, and then to finish it would be a 90, but since we're doing a torus it's 45, 45, and then new 45, 45. And so that's kind of weird, but that's just two ways of looking at what you can do with bends. You can create sphere shapes, you know what I mean, or you can create torus shapes any way you want. But something else that's cool is when we're looking at them like this, here's this, we bend and we get this, we can repeat it to get a figure eight shape. But then if we could do that, let's say go from here into this lobe of the figure eight, and then take a new point and create a new figure eight. And so you can kind of like chain these figure eights together to imply shapes as well, like a 5-petal flower, right? So let's see if this kind of comes across well. We have figure eight that could go like this, right? It's kind of a diagonal figure eight. Boom. And then we can go here horizontally across, and then back diagonally, right? And then you can go up and kind of like this weird awkward diagonal. It's not directly diagonal, but it goes, you know, from the bottom to the top part of the star. Once you're at the top, you can do the same thing the other direction. Odd number of petals, so now it's going reverse. One more time through of this pattern gets us back to forward, right? And so you can loop that pattern and have this weird 3D 5-pointed star, right? And that's another way of using bends. And it's not really a sphere, and it's not really a torus because there's not like a center. I guess there is, but I don't know, maybe that is a toroid. Who fucking knows? But you guys tell me. But that's just another way you can use bends to do cool shit. Like I like the idea of this, you know, boonk, 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 making like zigzags. You can change direction with it and all this shit, you know. Like let's take a 3, bend it out, and then back up. Just that simple thing I've reversed now. And that's a handy tool, right? Oh yeah. And then the other thing I want to show you is this stupid, so we're like bending in greater and greater degrees until we get to the wall plane. The only way to do a figure eight in the wall plane that acts like a bend is to almost do like a floating point isolation in the middle. So it's like coming up in the middle, switch, still coming up in the middle there. So it's like you're getting a figure eight on the wall plane, but it's kind of cheating if you want to think of bending, because you're not really bending. You're point isolating and really quickly switching the center of rotation, which is basically what a bend is. So, you know, that's just my 2 cents on it. It seems pretty straightforward if you just think, you know, of applying bends. Like you can think of applying weaves, right? And just like a 2-beat weave, eventually got fucked around with enough to where you can do body tracing, and that's just variations of a 2-beat weave, right? You know, so bending is the basic part of toruses and sphering and all that other shit, but the rest is just, I think, differences in terminology and what you're trying to express. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much, but thanks for listening.